Welcome back to Capital Catch-Up, your insider's guide to the marble halls of Washington. I'm Victor.
And I'm Lenny. It is a bustling week in January 2026, Victor. The 119th Congress is in full swing. And if you thought things would slow down after the holidays, looking at the congressional record from January 16th through the 23rd proves you wrong.
Absolutely. We have a massive slate of legislation to cover, ranging from artificial intelligence security to some incredibly heated culture war debates, and of course, the ever-present battle over the budget.
Let's start with the money, because that's what keeps the lights on. We are looking at House Bill 7148, the Consolidated Appropriations Act for 2026. This is the omnibus package intended to fund the government.
Right. And this pairs with House Bill 7147, the Department of Homeland Security Appropriations Act. It's interesting to note the timing here. Usually we see these fights drag out, but there is a clear push to get this locked in. The Committee on Rules and the Appropriations Committee held hearings on these just this past week, specifically on January 21st.
The implications for everyday Americans are huge here. We are talking about funding for everything from national parks to border security. But Victor, speaking of Homeland Security, we have to talk about House Resolution 996.
I was just getting to that. This is a political earthquake. House Resolution 996 is a resolution impeaching Christy Lynn Arnold Nome, the Secretary of Homeland Security, for high crimes and misdemeanors.
It is rare to see cabinet-level impeachment articles filed. While the text cites high crimes, this is likely a culmination of the intense friction we've seen over border management policies. It's a procedural long shot in the Senate, but it sends a massive signal of discontent from the House majority.
It certainly sets a contentious tone, and that tone carries over into social issues. We saw a flurry of bills dropped recently that tackle language and reproductive rights. Take House Bill 7235. This bill prohibits federal agencies from using the term birthing person in official documents.
This is a direct response to the inclusive language initiatives we saw in previous years. It's a culture war marker, essentially mandating that government language revert to traditional gendered terms. Alongside that, we have House Bill 7237, which amends the Public Health Service Act regarding chemical abortions, requiring that women are made aware of specific risks.
And House Bill 7236, which requires the Secretary of Health and Human Services to maintain a national list of licensed private child placement agencies. These bills, 7235, 7236, and 7237, show a coordinated effort to reshape federal policy regarding family structure and reproductive health.
It wasn't just bills being filed, Victor. The committees were active on this front too. On January 20th, we saw a markup session covering House Bill 6945, the Supporting Pregnant and Parenting Women and Families Act, and House Bill 6359, the Pregnant Students' Rights Act.
For our listeners who might not know, a markup is the process where a committee debates, amends, and rewrites proposed legislation before sending it to the full House floor. It's essentially the last mechanic check before the car hits the road.
Exactly. Moving away from social issues, there was significant movement on veterans affairs. We saw House Bill 1458, the Vets Opportunity Act of 2025, and House Bill 6359, the Veteran Education Empowerment Act.
These seem to build on the GI Bill legacy, trying to modernize how veterans access education in a changing economy. However, there's an interesting counterbalance in House Bill 7238, which seeks to establish a commission on equity and reconciliation in the uniformed services.
That is going to be a flashpoint. While bills like 1458 focus on economic opportunity, 7238 focuses on social historical context within the military. It's worth noting we also had House Resolution 1019, recognizing Certified Registered Nurse Anesthetists, or CRNAs, in the armed forces. It's a nice nod to a group that has been serving for 150 years.
Let's pivot to technology and security. I'm looking at House Bill 7058. This requires the Secretary of State to assess risks posed by foreign adversaries using generative artificial intelligence.
This is the first time we've seen legislation specifically target generative AI in the context of foreign malice so explicitly. It moves beyond just cybersecurity and looks at disinformation and deepfakes. This pairs well with House Bill 7037, the legislation on developing overseas mineral investments.
Right, the critical minerals race. That bill is about securing the supply chain for batteries and chips, so we aren't dependent on adversaries. On the domestic front, House Bill 1036, the Ensuring Accountability and Dignity in Government Contracting Act, looks to tighten up how we spend tax dollars here at home.
Speaking of domestic spending and regulation, we cannot ignore House Bill 7166. This is a major gun control measure. It would require face-to-face purchases of ammunition and licensing for ammo dealers.
That is a massive shift. Currently, online bulk purchasing of ammunition is common in many states. This bill would effectively end that, forcing transactions into physical stores. Expect heavy lobbying on both sides of that one.
Shifting gears to the Senate side of things, nominations. The president has been busy filling judicial vacancies. We saw a long list of nominations sent to the Senate, including Nicholas John Ganji for the Southern District of Texas and Andrew Benson for U.S. Attorney in Maine.
There is a heavy focus on the Midwest and South here. We have nominees for the Western District of Arkansas, Western District of Missouri, and the Western District of Tennessee. It looks like the administration is trying to clear a backlog of vacancies in the federal courts before the midterms ramp up.
And speaking of the courts and legal battles, the Committee on the Judiciary held a hearing on January 22nd titled Oversight of the Office of Special Counsel Jack Smith.
That is always a high-voltage hearing. It suggests that despite the passage of time, the investigations into former executive leadership remain a central focal point for the House oversight capability.
We should also touch on the sheer volume of committee work. The Energy and Commerce Committee met on January 22nd regarding House Bill 1346, the Nationwide Consumer and Fuel Retailer Choice Act. And there was a fascinating hearing on housing affordability, saving the American dream.
That housing hearing is crucial. With interest rates where they are, Congress is under pressure to act. Also, did you catch the hearing with the health insurance CEOs on the 22nd?
I did. Lowering healthcare costs for all Americans. It's a perennial topic, but dragging CEOs in to testify usually means Congress is looking for sound bites, or perhaps looking to leverage them into supporting the transparency measures we saw in House Bill 1227, the Alternatives to Pain Act, regarding opioid alternatives.
Finally, looking at House Bill 7158, the Jumpstart Programs for apprenticeships, this amends the tax code to help people save for trade schools, not just colleges. It's a recognition that the four-year degree isn't the only path to the middle class.
So what should our listeners watch for in the coming days?
Keep your eyes on House Bill 7148, the Appropriations Act. If that stalls, we are looking at a government shutdown threat. Also, watch the momentum on the impeachment resolution against Secretary Noem. It might just be symbolic, but simples matter in an election cycle.
And I'll be watching House Bill 7166, the ammunition bill. If that moves out of committee, it will spark a national debate on Second Amendment rights instantly.
Whatever happens, we'll be here to break it down. Thanks for listening to Capital Catch-Up.
See you next time.